Do your locks smell? You can be honest with me. Do they smell, but only when they're wet? Okay. Yeah, let's talk about that. Welcome back to the Atreyu Locs channel. Hi, I'm Atreyu, semi-freeformer who is dedicated to bringing you guys the best tips to grow a healthy set of locks. If this is your first time, make yourself comfortable. I am glad to have you. So today I'm going to be responding to a question from MC, a bad boy. My apologies for the delay in responding. I've been so busy with my other channel, Atreyu Crochet, which has officially surpassed this channel now in terms of the number of subscribers. So I've been making tons of videos for that channel because they want that content. Anyway, I'm here now, and MC, a bad boy, let's get to your comment. Yo, thanks for all the info you give in this video, ma'am. Got dreads since 2016, done by crochet after twist and rip, all by myself. Impressive. But for the last 2 years, I really had the problem with the bad smell when they are wet. No problems when they are dry though. I had the feeling that I do dry them well and take a really good bath and rinse until no foam is seen, leaving dreadlocks free for 12 hours after I did the towel dry and air blower dry. It seems that in the end they still have some water that comes off after 30 minutes. How long do you dry your dreads and how exactly? My dread size are like 3 of yours is one of mine. I use a natural anti-dandruff shampoo that I buy custom made in the lab. Kinda. Wow, it's fancy. No oils or anything added on dreads, okay? We'll try the vinegar made from grapes to get rid of the smell. So just there with the dreads inside the vinegar for 10 minutes, then rinse good with water. I usually put shampoo and focus on my scalp more than dreadlocks, so I avoid dandruff appearing until the next wash, 1 time per week. All right, so this is a very good comment filled with questions. And yeah, you brought up a lot of good things. So what struck me about this comment is that you're doing, pretty much everything right. So it's like, why are you still experiencing smelly dreadlocks? So I'm going to dissect this comment, kind of responding to different things at a time. Okay, so in terms of the fact that your dreadlocks smell when they're wet, that's what happens when you have like mildew. I know if you compare it to clothes, like, you can really smell the mildew when they're wet, but there's even a smell when they're dry, but that smell is faint, right? So I think it's possible that your dreads, when wet, I think the water kind of activates the scent of the mildew, and it just becomes, just so much more powerful when wet. But when they're dry, yeah, that activation is not happening, and so if you were to try to sniff really hard, you might get a faint hint of the mildew smell, but yeah, most of the time you won't smell anything. I had the same experience with my locks when they had that mildew smell. They were fine when they were dry, and then after I washed them, I noticed the smell. So it sounds like you're doing a very good job in terms of washing them and thoroughly rinsing them, because yes, the buildup can become problematic, not just as buildup, but it can contribute, the moisture of the residue before it completely dries can contribute to the presence of mold and mildew. Okay, so yeah, that's yet another thing that you're doing right. Now you asked, how long do I dry my dreads and exactly how? So what I like to do is, if I know it's a wash day, I like to make one of the very first things that I do that day washing my locks, so that they have the entire day to dry, right? I try to avoid blow dryers as much as possible, but depending on the temperature outside, they still may not be dry enough to my satisfaction where I feel comfortable putting them up in a satin bonnet and then sleeping on them. So but yeah, I start early in the day. I wash them, I rinse them, thoroughly rinse the shampoo out, which I guess is a product. And then I towel dry, right? I wrap them up in the towel. That towel will stay on anywhere from like 30 to 45 minutes. I make sure it's an extra absorbent towel, and it just sucks as much moisture as possible out of my locks. If that towel becomes saturated with water, then I use another towel, a dry towel, and wrap them up, if that 30 to 45 minutes has not elapsed. And then I will let them down to air dry. Now, if they are not completely dry by the time it's getting close to bedtime, then I will bring out the blow dryer and set it to a very kind of cool or warm setting and just kind of blow on them. And usually it's the tips that are holding on to the excess water, because the gravity, the water is pulled down to the tips. So that's pretty much my process. You mentioned that 3 of mine is kind of like equivalent to yours, so it could be the size that is really the source of your problem. I mean, how well can you really feel internally, like how well can you feel inside the lock if your locks are that thick, so you may think that they're dry, but I guess the mildew is saying otherwise. So yeah, it's crazy, dude. That's just one of the problems that comes with having thicker locks. You were asking about how to use the vinegar. You said you were going to use vinegar from grapes, and you're wondering if you just rinse with water after 10 minutes. Yeah, I mean, that works. Or you can shampoo it again. I don't remember what I did, so I think I used shampoo when I did it. I can't remember. It's in the video, but yeah, just rinse and you should be good to go. Let them soak in the vinegar and then rinse thoroughly. If you want to apply more shampoo, if you're worried about your locks smelling like vinegar, then you can, but of course just make sure you rinse the shampoo out very thoroughly. So of course, once again, you're doing most things right. You're applying the shampoo to your scalp because that's the main part of your head that you want to get clean, not so much the locks, especially if you're not using many products or any products. So yeah, now the last thing you said could also be part of the problem, and I say this, let me preface this by saying that I know that your washing frequency, assuming you're not African American, is probably much more frequent than mine or someone with hair like me. So you said you wash once a week, and I think if you can kind of hold off for like another week, maybe you can try a week and a half, then see if you can push it to 2 weeks where you're washing your hair every 2 weeks. Hopefully the oil doesn't get to you. Then I think that would be advisable, because whenever you develop mold and mildew, the reason is that there's a consistent source of moisture and your hair is not drying thoroughly. So you might be wondering, what's the consistent source of moisture? Especially if I'm drying my locks completely. Well, you think you are drying your locks completely, right? But they're thick, so maybe you're not drying them completely. And so that next week, when it's time to wash, you're reintroducing more moisture. Well, they weren't completely dry, but now you're giving them more moisture, so there you go. Lo and behold, your consistent or constant source of moisture, okay? And that's probably why you have the mildew issue. So because you have thick locks, I would try to hold out a little bit longer before you allow them to get wet, to make sure that they are, as dry as possible. As I said before, it sounds like you're doing most everything else right, like you're drying them as thoroughly as you can, okay? But I have heard of people saying that sometimes it takes like days for their locks to dry. For me, I never did answer the question completely, but for me, my locks are usually dry by the end of the day, okay? When I start early in the morning, they're usually dry by the end of the day. If it's summer, they dry, in a few hours. If it's winter or cold out, like it is now, then they will, it takes a little bit longer, and I might have to pull out the blow dryer. Also, when it's colder out, I will kind of kick up the thermostat a few degrees just to make sure that my environment is warmer and therefore more conducive to drying my locks more thoroughly, okay? So hopefully this answers your question MC, a bad boy. It was a very good comment with great questions that are applicable to lockers. In short, I don't think you're doing anything wrong. I just think you have to modify slightly your approach because of the fact that you have thick locks, okay? Alright guys, well, if you made it this far, I want to let you know that this will be my last video of this type. I have decided that I am going to finally change the type of content that I post on this channel. I still don't know what it's going to be. Before, when I was sub Atreyu, you know, I would do different things like do covers and stuff, but people didn't really seem too interested in that, so I know that's not the direction that I'm going to go. But I do want to, you know, venture out and try something else. And many of you have said that, you know, it didn't matter the direction that I took, you would still support me even if I wasn't like talking specifically about Locs again. So MC, a bad boy, you're the last person that I'm going to respond to in this manner. And yeah, it's December 31st, 2022. So the next video sometime in 2023 will be a video showcasing the new direction of this channel. I'm going to keep the name Atreyu Locs because it has history. You know, it's a symbol of my roots, and for the people who have been around, you know, when you know, you know. The new subscribers that come, you know, in 2023 and thereafter, they're probably going to be wondering why my channel is called that, besides the fact that I have locks, but most likely they're going to be covered most of the time anyway, so they won't necessarily know, like you veterans and you people who are currently subscribed. So when you know, you know. Also, if you like this hat, I feel like I'm going to get a few people that kind of like this bucket hat. There will be a video posted tomorrow on my Atreyu Crochet channel showing how to make it, so check that out. Well, before I go, I just want to thank all of you for supporting me over these years, supporting my lock content. You know, I know for many of you, my videos kind of became somewhat stale because I continued to do the same thing, but I've just never been a follower, and I don't like doing what everybody else does just because it's popular or that's what people do, you know? I think that's why the growth of this channel has been so slow, which is fine. I feel like you guys are the real ones, but I do want to thank you for, you know, watching my videos and for all the people who have consistently commented over the years and months, and just let you know that I really appreciate you, and I really hope that you enjoy the new direction of the channel. One last time, if you choose to love, do so unconditionally, because loving with conditions the heart to not really love at all. This is Atreyu Locs, and I will see you in 2023. Peace.